You are listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network. So I hope people aren't going to be disappointed that there's no actual sacred deer that gets killed here. I mean, there's no... It's not like waiting for it to come at night, though.
Yeah, there's no deer.
I mean...
You're not going to let that go, are you?
I will never let that go. I'm still very upset.
Mythical Indian anything.
No, there is not. But, you know, this is, admittedly, this is a part of what I just heard described for the first time as the Greek weird wave of filmmakers, which I think is the best name for a thing ever, from Yorgos Lanthimos, who did The Lobster and he did Dogtooth. And having seen all three of these films now, I'm like, yeah, that term fits quite well.
Yeah.
And the title is completely referring to a myth. It's like a Greek myth. So it's like, oh, well, I guess when you put that metaphor into the middle of the whole thing, it makes sense.
Because he's Greek, and there it is.
That whole thing, like, oh, you killed this deer, and well, you weren't supposed to do that, and so now you have to make a terrible choice, a Sophie's choice of killing.
Sophie's choice of the Greek mythology.
Yeah, killing someone
Greek
that you love.
Proportions.
And this film, which seems to, it's the most grounded of any of his movies, I would say, in the sense that it feels like we're watching a slightly banal version of our world, because everyone kind of talks in the very straightforward,
very
normal and very
stylized.
although everyone is like completely has no filters whatsoever either. They're just like,
so weird.
I'm sorry. I like one point this girl says, I just got my first period. Just tells a guy she just met that. And you're like, what?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it's not.
And no one
at
acts
the
like it's a
party.
weird thing.
Oh yeah,
Like,
my daughter just
right,
started her
okay.
menses. Wait, what?
Yeah. Everybody talks like that, like as if this is just normal conversation. But other than that, seems more or less like the real world,
They
right?
watch Groundhog Day just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
You know.
They put their pants on one leg at a time, which means they have 4 legs. But the story follows around Colin Farrell, once again returning to work with this director after The Lobster, where he is a doctor who believes he's God. Well, he's a doctor, so I guess that was...
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's like our world
Redundant.
in a way.
Yeah, not in a literal, I think I'm God, but in a, like, the way that
God
doctors do.
conflict surgeon.
Like, there's a bit where they're talking about, you know, one of the central themes here, which is the one time he really fucked up and he refuses to take any, like, responsibility for it. He's like, no, surgeons don't fuck up. Anesthesiologists fuck up. So that was clearly his fault. Whereas later we see the anesthesiologist says the exact same thing in reverse. Fucking doctors, man.
Still one.
So we see that he's friends with this kid, Martin, played by Barry Keoghan, who's the main guy from Dunkirk.
Yeah.
And we're like, the biggest question at first act of this movie is, what in the fuck are they? Is he fucking this kid?
Right? I know.
No, I thought it was his love child from like some other affair.
I was thinking.
Yeah, it's weird because they're like, he's taking him out to dinners and he's like buying him expensive gifts.
Yeah, the
and
gift
like,
was odd. I'm like, oh, it's got to be his son.
But he's also lying about him, going like, oh, he's my daughter's friend. To people. And you're like, what is happening?
Because how did I tell Nicole Kidman that I had this kid from somebody?
Well, yeah, especially when you're married to Nicole Kidman. You're like, you don't want to keep secrets from her.
Well, and considering like how everybody already talks in this very like formal kind of no boundaries manner of speaking, he takes that even farther. Like everybody's already acting kind of weird, talking kind of weird. This guy's fucked up from moment one. You can tell there's something wrong with this kid.
Yeah, like he's the weird one. In this
exactly.
Weird movie.
In this already weird movie, he's the one who really stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah. For when everyone talks that way and he talks that way even more.
Yeah.
But like the crux of the matter is that basically his dad is the one for the aforementioned died in the aforementioned screwed up surgery, and he doesn't act at all like there's anything that he's holding against him about
emotionless
this.
about
He's
it.
just so everyone's emotionless.
About everything.
Yeah.
And he's very gracious about everything. You know, he's like, "Oh, thank you. That was very, very kind of you." And it's clear the reason that's why Colin Farrell's being nice to him. He feels, regardless of being willing to admit that he fucked up, he still feels bad. So that's the thing of this film, which is really kind of plotless up to the point where suddenly it's not, and the movie goes, oh, yeah, you forgot that Yorgos Lanthimos was making this movie. Here's where we're going to drop that shoe where that impossible in our world thing happens that changes the structure of the whole rest of the
It's
film.
an absurd piece no matter what way you look at it. It's just not maybe as blatantly absurd. as the lobster.
No, which is
Perhaps.
constantly like building a mythology of absurd.
Yeah.
Like it's world building. This isn't really
It's
world
mildly
building.
absurd.
Well, it does exist in its own on its own like wavelength, its own reality, but it does have it does have one foot in the ground of our reality
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
which
It's like
I
some
thought
really
was
low-key UNESCO or something.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it really is that the myth of the title, where he's asked to make this absolutely impossible choice in once again, not in our world, something that he has absolutely no control over, and strangely doesn't question as much as you'd think you would.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of questioning going on.
No, there isn't.
But
It's
that's
just
very
People just
normal.
make weird statements.
That's very normal for this guy's films, where it's like when something that's surreal is introduced, everyone's like, yeah, it's just how it is. It's just like, yeah, that's a thing.
It's a really great. It really is a great like sort of offering into surrealist cinema, and it plays by its own rules. But
It's almost more Dadaist, really, in
Yeah,
that way.
really,
It's
yeah.
that one element that twists everything, that just makes everything wrong.
Yeah.
And not in a bad way, but
And I feel like this movie, it's a great example of what they talk about a lot in screenwriting of, however ridiculous your reality is, make sure you establish the parameters of that reality.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that, in this case, very literally, when you do bring in like the thing that is supposed to be very out there and very weird, you've already done a good job of establishing how this world kind of operates. You're like,
Right.
okay, this clearly isn't our world,
Right.
but I'm going to kind of go with this, because
Yeah.
this kind of fits the world that
I'm
they're
gonna visit it
creating
for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll live in
Embrace
it.
it.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
live in it, and I'll kind of go by the rules that they're setting up of how this works.
Yeah, no, it's all very matter of fact,
Yeah.
the way he set it
Yeah.
up, and it's
Yeah.
just, this is the way it is. And
I think adding to it though is, you notice that the music in this, the most jarring sort of musical notes for the most tranquil scenes.
Oh, yeah.
And when something shocking happens, it happens without any music whatsoever.
yeah,
Yeah.
a very interesting blend of music.
Yeah.
Actually, they've got some classical, and I've heard a lot more classical music in films this past year than I have in
well, that should
years.
make you happy. You love
I
classical
know
music.
it's all, but in this movie, it was like, oh wait, this is weird that this music is being played right now.
It all creates a sort of like icy, almost sterile environment, which like classical music has a way of like often, depending on the pieces, adding to that.
Yeah, and this
where
is instrumental. I
everything-
feel like there's a lot of
So to
there's
speak.
piano,
Hey.
piano in it, and I'm ignoring you. And
as well, you should. You've learned.
well, everything was sterile about it. The coloring, like the entire coloring, the way they shot things, the way
Yeah.
the angles of the shots,
The
way-
performances.
I mean,
but
everything was.
Every set,
But
every set
everything.
felt like very immaculate. It was almost like they never left the hospital. Like
Yeah.
Everything
Even
felt
the
like you
houses
were
were like that.
looking at model homes.
yes,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
very much.
everything has that very like narrow, almost like geometric design. A lot of
Yeah.
like harsh angles.
There's
and
one color for this.
One color, yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And then,
So-
of course, the camera work, which is as typical from this guy, it was amazing, but
Yeah.
it sticks to the symmetry constantly. It's
Yep.
always got that, except for those moments
Got some
when
really
it doesn't,
cool hall
and
shots.
when you're
I'm
like,
whoa, that's
oh,
amazing.
what's wrong? Something feels wrong.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing has been so goddamn symmetrical. When he goes asymmetrical, you know shit is about to go off.
Right.
One of my favorite shots is when Bob drops and you see him overhead from on the escalator going down from the hospital. I thought, oh,
So good.
beautiful, love that.
That was yeah. I
And
love
there's
that.
so many things that you keep thinking this movie is going to go off the rails in things are about to get bad a lot faster than they actually do, because the weird relationship that this kid forms with his Colin Farrell's kids and like starts dating his daughter.
so
You're
creepy.
waiting for that to turn into a totally different type of horror movie right there.
Yeah, that's true. And it is not what you expect.
It's even weirder and more disturbing is the kids, when they're starting to find out what's happening here, who should hate this kid,
Yeah.
are like, no, we totally get what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
they gotta do this. We
Yeah,
gotta go through
that's-
this.
shit happens,
Yeah,
man.
Hey, what are you gonna do?
Well, and that was some of the things as far as like kind of the horror elements of the movie that unnerved me the most, where when things do continue to escalate, the fact that especially the kids just sort of watching their interactions and then being like, yeah, well, this is kind of a bum rap. I guess you're gonna have to take the bullet on this one, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. The ending
Oh,
choice
yeah.
was so disturbing for me.
It was
Oh my
the
God.
thing when he's finally, and this is really the story of a guy who like thinks of himself as God, and then meets the devil, basically, who goes, yeah, you're not as much God as you thought you did, because now you have to make an impossible fucking choice. And he's such a coward, ultimately, he can't even make the choice.
No, he can't.
Which reminds me of the thought experiment, that one with where you're in a trolley, and like you can go down the track where it's already going. If you do nothing, it's going to hit 5 construction workers and kill them. But if you change the track, it's going to hit one person that you kind of know and just kill that one person. So what do you do? And his inability to even make any choice there, and the way it plays out, I actually kind of
he doesn't make a choice.
Actually, kind of started laughing.
He makes a choice not to make a choice.
Well, it's because the lengths he goes to avoid making a choice are so absurd that I couldn't help but sort of laugh in horror watching
even
it.
that absurdity is like accepted. Like Nicole Kidman's like, okay, well, let me put on my black dress and I'll be right down.
Yeah.
I know. You're like, what?
Everybody seems to be, again, no matter how ridiculous it gets, everybody just seems to be kind of okay with it.
They're all just going with it.
And
All right,
it just kind of adds to this like really unnerving, unsettling feeling you get in the pit of your stomach.
Yeah.
It just grows.
I felt that the
grows and
whole
grows.
And that's the pinnacle
way.
of that.
Yeah.
Is that,
And the opening shot pretty much sets you up. Even it gets you.
Not for the squeamish.
It unsettles you.
By the way, that was actual open heart surgery.
Yeah,
that was not an effect.
I figured it was.
Yeah. So it opens with a shot of open heart surgery, which I figured it wasn't, because I'm real. You remember this? What a big pussy I was with the surgery channel? Because we'd be flipping through channels, and it would come on, and I would be like, no, turn it. And you're like, dude, you watch like the fucking Evil Dead all the time in
that
Italian
doesn't bother
horror.
me at all.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't even look at the real
makeup
thing.
effects. And, this is
I don't
real.
know. Surgery's fine.
Yeah.
Fine,
but
whatever.
you're right. The whole thing is just subtly unsettling all the way through it, making this a strangely. I mean, people are going to argue
Even
about
their
it at
sex
length.
life is.
Oh yeah,
It's just like his God complex. There it is again. It's just reinforcing
it really
his.
is.
yeah. He's
way
like,
of
I want you
being.
to literally pretend like you've been completely anesthetized.
Like you're dead, and
That's
I'm
their
surgeon.
routine. That
It's
is their
so
like,
Yep, that's
man.
People, outwardly normal people, from all reports, seem to like to have the kinkiest, weirdest sex. You know, it's only the total weirdos are probably milk with toast. You know, you know, Rob Zombie is like, I only do missionary positions.
That would not be surprising at all.
But yeah, let's go into final thoughts here. Lara, why don't you get us started?
So I had to think about whether or not I liked this movie. It took me a while. I don't know. When I left the theater, I just really couldn't figure out what I thought about it. And that doesn't mean it's a bad film or a good film or anything. I just really had a hard time making a decision after this.
Oh, how ironic.
I know. But I decided...
You did a better job than Colin Farrell did.
Oh my God, no, I came to a conclusion. I did actually like this film. I liked all the artistry that's put into it. I love the way he uses the craft. I thought the performances were really good. I don't know how they managed to pull this off so well, actually. I mean, these people are really good actors. The kid, Barry Keoghan, he does a great job. I mean, he stands out above everyone. You know, and part of that is how he's written in and the character is written in. He clearly is apart from the rest, but he is gripping on the screen. And I love the colors. I love the shots. And I'm going to give it 7 nosebleeds.
There you go.
Yeah.
Frank?
Yeah, I really agree with you, like 100% about the acting. I think this material really like brings. I mean, listen, this director got like some good acting out of Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah.
I mean, which
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
it's not
Made a
the
small
easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
Hey, she was great and Clueless. I will not hear you talk
I
about
can't
it.
she
stand
did
Clueless. I
something
could not
totally
stand
different.
watching this like bratty Beverly Hills girl complain about her. I hate Clueless. Just like you hate Eli Roth, I hate Clueless.
Yeah. Or
but-
Inherent Vice.
Oh, I love Inherent Vice. Damn, yeah. Go to my grave loving that movie, Chris. But yeah, no, I mean, across the board, he is hands down phenomenal. And because he is the weirdest, and he also plays it the most normal out of everybody, as much as he can in this reality. But what I love most about this film, why I think is going to stay with me, and I'm still not sure how much I liked it. I didn't hate it. But
Right.
I'm not sure how much I liked it. But what I really, loved about it was that it's a very American film in a lot of ways, but has such a European flavor to it. And I
Yeah,
love the way that
totally.
those two met and made this weird fusion a piece of cinematic art, which is what it is.
Yeah.
All the way through. And I can't stop thinking about it. I'm going to be recommending it to very specific people, but I know that they're going to love it and they're not going to forget it, like me. So on that note, I got to give it 8 out of 10 open heart surgeries.
There you
go. Ian.
Watching this movie, it actually reminded me a lot of watching Mother, the Darren Aronofsky movie.
Yeah. I love Mother.
Well, in the sense that, like
all right, Norman Bates.
Well, in the sense that, they were both movies that when they were done, I wasn't really sure how to feel about them because they're very intense, very difficult experiences.
You can't write them off.
And and while I had a lot of issues with Mother, just about the kind of delivery of its message, I thought was a little too heavy-handed. The thing that I liked with this was, for as intense and as disturbing as this movie got, the whole thing kept this very low-key, very chill demeanor. It's like if the movie itself had a heart rate, it never raised too high, and that in a way kind of made it a more intense, more unnerving experience because you kind of almost want the movie to get crazier because you're losing your mind. You're going is no one else feeling this way?
Yeah.
Is no one else weirded out by this?
Somebody, please.
But everything you were talking about the performances, about kind of the really interesting culture clash that you see as far as the styles in this movie, the very weird Alicia Silverstone appearance, you know, all kind of works together in this very weird, very memorable. Not even a movie, just an experience that I had, really. But yeah, with that, I'd give it probably 8.5 open heart surgeries out of 10.
Yeah, this movie kind of lives in that weird zone that you see in horror about a minute or two before the first killing happens. But that's 90% of this movie feels like it's at that moment where the music starts creeping up in the background just a little bit, and everyone kind of looks like, something's out there. The whole movie kind of feels like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's this intensity to it, despite it, as you said, just keeping this sort of even keel the whole way through. But I was half asleep when I went to see this. I saw early morning screening. I was like, fuck, I'm not in the mood to watch this movie. I'm not in the right state of mind. 2 minutes in, I was like, in 100%.
It requires you to be in immediately.
And I mean, it grabbed me. I was like, I couldn't believe how much it grabbed me.
Because you watched open heart surgery for 30 minutes.
That'll wake you up.
But I thought this movie was incredibly intense. Interesting note. The movie, when Barry Keoghan invites Colin Farrell over to his house to watch a movie, the movie they watch is Groundhog's Day, which is also about a normal world, normal person who one magical thing happens to and it changes his whole life. It's another magical realism horror.
And that was the only bit of color in the whole movie. It was in that scene in their house and her outfit and her hair.
But it's it's so subtly absurd, this movie, instead of outwardly. There's little touches here and there that are like, well, that's fucking weird. Like little things like we said about the way that people talk to each other so overtly just honest is off-putting. It's not so far as to be surreal, but it has this, gives you the sensation of something is wrong here the whole way through. And what he created ultimately, I feel, is a horror film.
And he had kids. He got those kids to do
disturbing,
amazing things.
This dialogue is so well written. The acting is really good. The cinematography is just drop dead gorgeous. This is really, I think this is one of the best movies this year, personally. And I give it 9 out of 10 hearts that I didn't realize were real, and now I'm going to go throw up.
Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to Oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.